Number 1. I used to live in Orlando, in a somewhat shady part of town. The 5 deadbolts on the apartment door should have raised some flags. But I was a student, and there were a lot of students in the area, and I was young and not yet weary. Our less nice part of town bordered what actually was a nice town. There was a 4 to 6 lane road that ran through the area, and a jogging path that ran alongside it. Our apartment complex was right next to the road and the trail, and a little further down was my local gas station, where I'd walk once a day to buy a cigarette and other things. Because of the layout, it was easy for me to walk out my door, step on the path, and walk the 10 minutes to the gas station, because walking through the complex took longer. I often ended up taking this walk at night. Sure, I was a girl walking alone, but the path bordered this huge road with a lot of traffic, and right across the street was a busy strip mall with fast food places and such. So it wasn't like a dark path in the woods or anything. And hey, I always brought pepper spray and paid attention to my surroundings and all that jazz. So one night, I head to the gas station around 11 p.m. As I'm walking along the path, I hear something behind me. Turning around, I notice, about 30 yards behind me, there's a car on the trail, like it had to have pulled off the road and pulled up onto the path. I'm stopped and staring, and a guy gets out of the driver's side and starts walking around the grass between the trail and the road, as though he's looking for something. Oh, I think something must have fallen out of his car, and he's pulled over to search for it. I keep walking. As I'm walking, I'm hearing something again behind me. I stop and turn. The guy is now 15 yards behind me. Still, no headlights, and I turn as he stops the car, or he stops the car as I turn. Again, he gets out, and it looks like he's searching for something in the grass. But he's closer now, and I'm a little creeped out, but not close enough to the gas station, so I pick up the pace. The next time I turn, he's even closer. He stops again when I look, but he doesn't get out of the car. I don't want to just take off and let him know he scared me, but I am now power walking. My pepper spray is in hand, but what does pepper spray do against a car? I throw a look over my shoulder, and he's only a few yards behind me. He doesn't stop this time. The distance is closing. Screw it. I take off. I judge the distance to the gas station to be too far along the trail, but there's some trees on the other side of the path from the road. So I bolt into them, through them, and through a little ditch towards the light of the station, which is now right in front of me. It felt like the guy in the car was going very fast. I look behind me as I'm running through the ditch, and I see him through the space in the trees. His car slows down, and now he's just cruising along the section of path I left. I continue my sprint to the gas station, where I know I'll feel safe. The owners and employees all know me. I make it out front, and I'm catching my breath, watching the part of the jogging path that meets the intersection. I see the car, clearly for the first time. It's one of those brown car-truck combos with a tan stripe along the side. The guy drives up the trail to the intersection, flips his lights on, and floors it onto the main road, disappearing. Up until that point, I was running on a mix of adrenaline and feeling that maybe I'm being stupid, but better safe than sorry feeling. Once I had made it inside the gas station, I pretty much broke down shaking. To this day, I still don't know what that guy's intentions were. Maybe he didn't even see me and was just looking for something. Maybe he was planning to hit me with his car and drag me off. Maybe he was an asshole that was just trying to scare me. Either way, I had my boyfriend come get me from the gas station, and I've never walked alone at night again. I try not to think about what could have happened. because nothing actually happened to me. The biggest thing I worry about, especially in the last few years, is that if this guy really was a predator and I was a target, is there anyone else who wasn't as lucky as I was? I called the police from the gas station, but in the adrenaline of it all, I didn't have a good description of the guy or his car, and I wasn't thinking clearly enough to get the license plate number. The police just took my info over the phone and never followed up. I've half-heartedly Googled abductions and disappearances around that area in that time, and have not found anything that seems to be related. But even if I did find something, I'd just end up feeling guilty I didn't do more. I'm not sure I want to look back into it too much. Number 2. This happened to me one crisp autumn morning while I was walking to my bus stop when I was a freshman in high school. I played the cello, and at my school orchestra had signed up to play in a local school orchestra festival that day. So I was a bit dolled up with makeup, a nice twisted hairdo, a floor-length black dress, and a pair of shiny flat black suede shoes. I decided not to take my cello and use my school's cello instead, to avoid the risk of damage and theft. Well, it turns out that my cello wasn't the only thing I needed to worry about being damaged or stolen that day. I said goodbye to my family as I rushed out the door, binder in arm and backpack in tow. When I got past the edge of my tot, a white, unmarked delivery van without a license plate drove past me and slowed down for a moment, as if the driver was looking at something. Warily, I quickened my pace as I watched the van drive to the end of my cul-de-sac and turn around. I noticed that the van was hanging out back a ways and going very slowly. I thought, okay, this is creepy, and walked even faster. Then, the unthinkable happened. I tripped over my dress and my binder went flying out in front of me, spilling some of its contents. I heard the van speed up behind me as I scrambled to pick up everything with my bloody hands and run away. But it was too late. The van had caught up to me. The driver opened his window. "Are you okay? Do you need a ride to school?" he said. He looked to be about 35 to 40 years old, had ear-length, reddish-brown hair, brown eyes, and a skinny build. His eyes were bloodshot, and his movements were very fast, as if he was tweaking out on some sort of stimulant. "I'm fine," I said. "Just leave me alone." "Are you sure you don't want a ride?" he called as I walked away. "Yes, I'm sure. Now stop bothering me before I call the police," I exclaimed as I tried to run away. Thankfully, my dad's friend was working in his front yard and came to my aid when he realized that I was in trouble. The creep tried to convince him that he was just trying to help me, but seeing how distressed I was and the fact that he kept following me put up his red flags, and he didn't buy it. My dad's friend told me to run inside and get washed up while he called the police. As I did so, the creep tried to get out of his van when my dad's friend slammed the door shut, saying, "If you get out of this van and you try to hurt that girl, I will beat your sorry ass. You need to leave, now." I told my dad's friend that I still wanted to catch the bus, thinking that being among friends would help calm me down. So he agreed to watch over me until the bus got there. There was one other girl at the stop, and that was of some comfort. But the creep had the nerve to come back. When he drove by the second time, I ran for the nearest ditch and started sobbing. I was scared for my life. I had previously been in a 6.8 earthquake, and this experience was 10 times scarier than that. The other girl at the stop ran over to me, asking what was wrong, and I told her what had just happened. She stayed there with me until my dad's friend raced down there in his truck. We waited until the bus came to make sure that the other girl and all the other students who came later got on the bus safely. Once I got to school, I told the campus police officer what happened and tearfully gave him the best description of the creep and his vehicle as I could. Thankfully, he was caught later that day while I was at school, and I thanked the campus police officer profusely for getting that search started. Turns out, the creep had been living in my neighborhood for about a year. He could have been watching me for that long, and I didn't even know it. It also turns out that when the police found him, he was trying to convince two middle school-aged girls to get into his vehicle, saying he would give them a ride home, and trying to grab them when they bolted. For months afterwards, I was so afraid to walk by myself in my own neighborhood that my parents had to walk or drive me to the bus stop and wait, because going by myself meant having flashbacks and embarrassing panic attacks. This creep may not have taken me, but he took away my ability to feel safe. And it took me a long time to gain that back. Number 3. For some background, I'm a 13-year-old girl. I'm also on the track and cross-country teams in my school. This means that to stay in shape, I have to do a lot of running. I live in a very small rural town. There are some beautiful roads around my house that I run on. I have a specific route that I like to run. Because we live in such a small town, my parents are okay with me going out for runs alone as long as I take my phone. My course is about 3 miles around and winds through some incredibly beautiful scenery. One day, it was especially nice, so I decided to go for a run. I got into my running gear, grabbed my phone, and told my parents I was going out. I ran down my driveway and up the first road. I passed the usual stuff, like incredible, wide-open cornfields and green trees that stretched over my head. Averting was normal. I had my headphones in, so I really couldn't hear anything. I ran about a mile up the road. When I came to a stop sign, I waited for a little bit to catch my breath. Because it was such an isolated place, I had only seen one car so far. So I found it a little bit strange when I saw that same car again. A faded, red-colored pickup truck parked on the other side of the street. I didn't give it more than a second thought because there were some pretty weird people living in my town. However, I noticed the guy inside the car was an older man who looked to be in his 40s or 50s and was just staring at me. I didn't know why, and I found this extremely creepy. He seemed to be trying to talk to me, so I took out my headphones. "I'm sorry, are you trying to talk to me?" I said in a polite tone. "Yes," he said in a rough sort of smoker's voice. "Do you need a ride?" No, I told him, still trying to be polite, although I was really uncomfortable. "Get in the car," he said in a surprisingly calm voice. "No," I said, and I full-on sprinted the next 2 miles. He was following me the whole way, never letting up. I was so scared and ran for my life. Even with how good of shape I'm in, I started becoming weak. I slowed down and the truck catches up to me. The door opens as he stops. But my adrenaline kicks in and I ran all the way home. I have still not told my parents about this, afraid that they might not let me run on my own anymore. Thankfully, I have never seen that man again,